So what is a World's Fair? According to Merriam-Webster, it's an international exhibition of the industrial, scientific, technological, and artistic achievements of the participating nations.
The idea behind the Chicago World's Fair originated in 3 events. The first is that Paris had a fair in 1878 where they revealed the Eiffel Tower and an advanced use of technology not displayed in the United States. The 400th anniversary of Andrew Jackson's brother from another mother, Christopher Columbus, and his voyage was a perfect opportunity for the fair to open in 1892. After much debate, Chicago won the bid because it had the most to prove after the Great Fire in 1871, so it could rise like a phoenix from the ashes.
After 3 years of planning and building a fair so big no one could see all of it, the architectural company Burnham and Root, Chicago Mayor Carter Harrison Sr., and famous architects Louis Sullivan and Frederick Law Olmsted opened the doors to the public a year late in 1893.
When Chicago won the bid against New York, Washington, D.C., and St. Louis to host the World's Columbian Exposition, they were handed the perfect opportunity to rebuild their reputation. The city had experienced a decline in the moral climate since the Great Fire, with more brothels, nightclubs, train accidents, and unnoticed murders. The World's Columbian Exposition Company was established to develop the fair. It was headed by many of the most influential architects of the time from all over America. Frederick Law Olmsted, the landscape architect of New York's Central Park, vowed to make Jackson Park, the site of the World's Fair, an example to the entire world of the capabilities of landscape architecture. Burnham and Root, the architecture firm that had designed the first skyscraper, the Montauk, in 1883, was also heavily involved. Louis Sullivan was appointed to build the main auditorium. The fair's entrance, also designed by Sullivan, was a magnificent gold-leaf structure in the middle of the city. The official Beaux Arts style of the fair, inspired by the classical architecture of Italy, France, and Spain, was apparent in such marvels as William Le Baron Jennings' Horticultural Hall and the Palace of Mechanic Arts by Peabody and Stearns. The world's first Ferris wheel, designed by George Washington Ferris, held 40 passengers in each compartment. At least one compartment usually held a band. The wheel was such a success that it was moved to St. Louis in 1904 for the Louisiana Purchase Exposition.
As majestic as the fair was, something dark was lurking in the shadows. Herman Webster Mudgett was born May 16, 1861. Little did anyone know the terrors that would follow. As a young man, he was privileged and unusually intelligent, even showing an interest in medicine by practicing surgery on animals. His official debut in the world of crime began with stealing corpses and committing insurance fraud as a student at the University of Michigan, though there were suspicions of him murdering a friend years earlier. He moved to Chicago in 1886 and began his job at a pharmacy under his new alias, Dr. Henry H. Holmes. He later took over the pharmacy and the 2 upper stories to create his infamous murder castle. After years of construction and renovation, and going through quite a few architects, Holmes's castle was suitable for his needs, with some normal rooms, some soundproof rooms, hidden gas jets for complementary asphyxiation, trapdoors, staircases to nowhere, and a fiery furnace in the basement for easy cleanup and body disposal. The castle first opened up for the Columbian Exposition. It was in a prime location, being within a few miles of the fair's entrance. Many of Holmes's guests safely departed, but not everyone survived his hospitality. After being arrested for insurance fraud and the murder of Benjamin Pitzel, his business partner and friend, Holmes admitted to killing 27 people, but only 9 were ever confirmed. Most historians, however, believe his death toll to be upwards of 200 people, including multiple ex-fiancés, Pitzel, and 3 of Pitzel's children. After appealing his case and losing, Holmes was hanged for the murder of Benjamin Pitzel in Pennsylvania on May 7, 1896, thus ending the reign of America's first serial killer.
Although this was some people's experience at the fair, many others had a first-hand look into new trends in society. During the fair, it was very common for bands to play John Philip Sousa's works, bringing a new trend in music. In addition, Dvorak created his New World Symphony in honor of the exposition. Not only that, but the young piano player Scott Joplin was developing ragtime while working at the fair. The fair also acted as a trade center to introduce new items to a large consumer base. Things like Cracker Jacks, shredded wheat, Aunt Jemima's, and even juicy fruit from Chicago's own Wrigley Corporation were introduced. This also brought about a popularity in advertising. The fair also introduced new things to the American people that have become staples of society, like carbonated soda and hamburgers. The fair brought about a cultural awareness that was not possible before. Countries displayed arrays of natural resources to highlight their affluence. Although fairly common now, many items were considered incredibly exotic to those of different countries. The fair also had reconstructed villages where people lived and were observed by others. Unfortunately, native people who lived there were portrayed as primitive. In fact, the leading anthropological theory classified cultures as savage, barbarian, and civilized according to their use of tools. The goal was to make the Western world look the most advanced. This could also be seen with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, which performed at the fair and showed Native Americans as savage and aggressive. Although the fair could have been used to make progress in moral and cultural reforms, it instead focused on developing technological feats, such as being one of the first to use electricity on a large scale.
The Chicago World's Fair led to many short and long-term impacts. The short-term include a bounce back for Chicago's economy after the fire, beginning of the City Beautiful movement, and the basis for other World's Fairs of the time. Long-term impacts include architectural feats like the creation of the Ferris wheel, the establishment of a day dedicated to Columbus, the Pledge of Allegiance becoming popularized in public schools, the establishment of Epcot as a permanent World's Fair at Disney World, and the idea of bringing together all forms of entertainment to create the modern-day carnival. All in all, America wouldn't have been the same without the Chicago World's Fair of 1893.